You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Lee Jacob Valk, and you're not. I've been starting with the NBA a lot, and I'm not going to do that here. The two NBA games yesterday were blowouts. Instead, I want to talk about the Stanley Cup Playoffs first. And I'll start with Islanders-Penguins. An absolute must-win game for both teams. I'm like 99% sure I said this on air. I definitely said it off air, though. Whoever won yesterday's game is going to go on to win the whole thing. I don't see either team losing two straight. Now, the Penguins seem to realize that, but the Islanders didn't. Make no mistake about it. For most of that game yesterday, the Penguins thoroughly outplayed the Islanders. I mean, just to give you a microcosm of how bad the Islanders were, they got outshot 20-4 in just the second period. They got outshot 50-28 through the whole game. But Ilya Sorokin stood on his head and single-handedly won that game for the Islanders. It wasn't Bailey, it wasn't Beauvillier, it wasn't Eberle, it wasn't Barzy, it wasn't anyone else. It was Ilya Sorokin. If anyone else had been in net, literally anyone, the Islanders would have lost that game. But Sorokin put this team on his back and made 48 outstanding saves. I apologize to you, Mr. Sorokin, for any bad word that I said about you. You are the real deal. You are a really good goalie in this league. You're good enough to be the unquestioned starter. I mean, Sorokin in this series has set records. The 48 saves that he made are the most ever by a rookie goalie in Islanders history. In his NHL career, he has made just 3 playoff starts. He has won all 3. No other Islander has ever done that. All you need is a hot goalie, right? Isn't that what people say? And you'll go far in the Stanley Cup Playoffs? The Islanders have a hot goalie right now. I mean, let me say this. Before the series started, I said Penguins in 6. Okay, obviously that can't happen anymore. It can be Islanders in 6 or it could be Penguins in 7. It still counts as me getting it right if it's Penguins in 7. That's more important, getting the team right, rather than getting the number of games right. But someone asked me this the other day. Jacob, you picked the Penguins in 6. How would you feel if the Islanders won? I looked at him, and I said to him, how do you think I'll feel? I'll be elated. I don't care if I get it wrong. I want the Islanders to advance. I don't care if I pick against the Islanders in every round that they're in these playoffs. If they go on to win the Stanley Cup, no one will be happier than me. Now I'll say this. If the Penguins do come back, I'll try to find a silver lining in it. My mom always says, Jacob, try to find the positives in everything. If the Islanders lose, which, again, is not the preferred outcome, I'll be able to take some solace in the fact that I got it right. Will I still be more upset that the Islanders lost? Absolutely. But that's like saying that I should always pick my favorite team to win the playoff rounds that they're in. No, that's being biased. That's the wrong way to go about it. There are a lot of people that can't separate their biases. I feel like I can. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but for God's sake, I picked against the Islanders in this series. It doesn't get much more unbiased than that. I'll be ecstatic if the Islanders win tomorrow. The Nassau Coliseum lives to see another playoff round. Great, fantastic. I'm going to go to all those games at the old barn. Will the Islanders beat the Bruins? No. They'll be destroyed by the Bruins. I don't even think it'll be close. But will I be rooting for the Islanders to go to the round that used to be considered the conference finals? Absolutely. I don't care if I get it wrong. I want to see my team win. But going back to goalies for a minute, it's time that we have a real conversation about Tristan Jarry. Is he good? Can you win with him? At this very moment, Tristan Jarry has given up the most goals out of any goalie in these playoffs. There has only been one game in this series, Game 2, where he has given up 2 or less goals. And that play that he made yesterday in double overtime, what on God's green earth was he thinking? He tries to clear the puck, he ends up passing it right to Josh Bailey. It was literally like a perfect pass to Josh Bailey. There was no Penguin that could have gotten that pass. I'm watching it, and it's almost like slow motion. My eyes bug out of my head. And it's like, oh my God, Jarry, you idiot, I love you. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what he was thinking would happen there. You can't have a brain cramp in that moment. I'm sorry, you just can't. That's inexcusable. If you're going to get beat honestly. Don't give the puck away to Josh Bailey and give him a golden opportunity to win the game. You know the song that Islanders fans sing, "Hey Josh Bailey, ooh ah, I want to know, can you score a goal?" Anyone could score a goal with that picture-perfect pass that Jarry made. I mean, let me ask you this. Do you go to Lagasse? Casey DeSmith is still unavailable. It's clear that Jarry just isn't getting the job done. I know that Lagasse only started one game this year, and it was against the Sabres. Of course he got a shutout. Made 29 saves. But this is backs against the wall time. You've got to try something. Look at what the Panthers just did. They put Spencer Knight in, and it worked. He gave him a game 6. You've got to think about putting Lagasse in if you're Mike Sullivan. Moving on now to Maple Leafs Canadiens. A very odd game. The first period was even. Both teams played really well. Very evenly matched. The second period was all Leafs. William Nylander, right off the face-off, was able to snipe it past Carey Price. I don't think he ever saw it. Bad job by Ben Chirot in not being able to block that. You've got to help your goalie out a little bit there. The Habs were able to tie it up. Nick Suzuki made a really nice snipe past Jack Campbell, who's turning into my boy. Suzuki and Caulfield, the two big young guns for the Habs, really played well. The Leafs were able to retake the lead in their second period. The Habs just couldn't get the puck out of their zone, and Morgan Riley kind of got lost in the shuffle. Was able to sink into the slot and just sniped it home. The Habs were a little gassed there in that period. I don't think there's a question about that. That's a big part of why Riley scored. Then the third period, the Habs did have some golden chances. Campbell made a nice shoulder save on Brendan Gallagher. Nick Suzuki came in with speed to beat the Leafs defense, and Campbell was able to stone him. The wraparound try by Tatar didn't work. And everything that happened after that, Campbell was there like a brick wall. Let me tell you, in this series, Jack Campbell is outplaying Carey Price. Price is the one who gave up 5 goals in Game 2. You know how many goals Campbell has given up in this whole series? 4. Campbell looks like the second coming of Johnny Bower. This is shaping up to be a great series. The Leafs are a really good team, and if Jack Campbell can keep up his Turk Broda-like play, they're going to be a really tough team to beat. Moving on now to Lightning Panthers. And like I said, Spencer Knight stood on his head. But it's important to note the context. The first shot that the Lightning had in this game came from Ross Colton. It came 53 seconds into the game. The reason I know that time specifically is because Colton scored. So if you blinked, it was 1-0 Lightning. Immediately, all those negative thoughts start going through your head. Oh, that's it. Knight's gonna wilt under the pressure. He's gonna give up 5 goals. This is how the series ends. There's no way that a rookie goalie can come back from this. But he did. He made the next 36 saves. The fact that Knight was able to put that goal behind him and win this game for the Panthers is incredibly impressive. It is very rare that you can find a rookie goalie with that short of an attention span. That's part of the reason why he's probably the best goalie prospect in the NHL. The Panthers really picked him up after that. Their unheralded guys stepped up. Mackenzie Weegar, Mason Marchment, Patrick Hornquist, who isn't unheralded, but the first 2 guys are. Frank Vetrano's a little unheralded. He scored the empty netter. This was an incredibly impressive win for the Panthers. I think it's too little too late. I find it very hard to imagine that Knight can win the next 2 games. But seeing how Knight played yesterday, I can't rule it out. The smart money is on the Lightning, but there's a non-zero chance that the Panthers can come back from 3-1 down. Moving on now to Oilers-Jets. The Jets did complete the sweep. They ended up winning in triple overtime. Kyle Connor ended up winning the game for the Jets. This was the best game that the Oilers have played in this series. But even then, though, that's not necessarily a good thing because Mike Smith did give up 4 goals on just 43 shots. 43 shots may seem like a lot, but in a triple overtime game, it really isn't. I mean, the Nugent-Hopkins goal was impressive. Sticking with the play after Hellebuck made the initial save, kicking it to his stick, and getting it to the backhand quickly. That was a nice goal. Connor Hellebuck really didn't play that well. I'll say that. I mean, neither goalie really played well in this game. The third Jets goal, the snipe by Scheifele, that's one that Smith should have stopped. That's an easy glove save. Maybe not for Tristan Jarry, but you know what? If you're an NHL goalie, you've got to be able to make that save. There was no one in front of him. You had to know that he was going to try to snipe it high. Smith was beating himself up after that. Yeah, he should have. And then the triple overtime goal, Kyle Connor just catches the Oilers on a change. Snipes it by Smith. Great pass by Neil Pionk, though. That was the underrated part of that goal. That was a fantastic bank pass by Pionk. It was a nice snipe, though, by Connor, but I thought the most impressive part of that goal was Pionk. Smith was upset with himself after that. He should have been You can't allow this Oilers team that has arguably the two best players in the game today, in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, to get swept. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that will be the most surprising result of the NHL playoffs. The fact that the Jets swept the Oilers. And somehow Dave Tippett is still the head coach of the Oilers. I would have fired him right after the Connor goal. He is not the right coach for that team. The Oilers have underwhelmed in the two playoff series that they've had under Tippett. McDavid and Draisaitl are still young. They're 24 and 25, respectively. You have golden opportunities to win with them now. You can't continue wasting their best years. I mean, how pathetic is this? Connor McDavid has been in the NHL for 6 seasons. Draisaitl has been in the NHL for 7 seasons. The Oilers have only won 1 playoff series with them. It came in 2017. They beat the Sharks in 6 games. Dave Tippett is not the right coach for the Oilers. He needs to go. If I'm Ken Holland, I'm making that change now. I mean, we know that Holland has a strong relationship with Mike Babcock. The two of them work with the Red Wings together. If you want a specific name, could you imagine Mike Babcock coaching the Oilers? I think he'd jump all over that. I know that his time with the Leafs was not good, but with the Red Wings, he did win a Stanley Cup. He's been to 3 Stanley Cups overall. Let's put it this way. He's a million times better than Dave Tippett. Moving on now to Wild Golden Knights. A very, very disappointing performance by Marc-Andre Fleury. If I know anything about Fleury, he had a tough time going to sleep after that. The Golden Knights played picture-perfect defense in this game. The Wild only had 14 shots. That's it. In the whole game, just 14 shots. You know how many shots the Golden Knights had in the second period? 22. You know how many shots the Wild had in the second period? 1. I'm going to make the obvious statement of the year here. The Golden Knights deserved to win this game. Their fans had to be sick watching this game. In a span of 7.5 minutes, Marc-Andre Fleury forgot how to play hockey. Kirill Kaprizov had his first ever playoff goal. That was nice to see. He's going to be a good player in this league for a long time. But even then, though, that was on a shot that Fleury would like to have back. He got over to the other side of his net quickly. It looked like he was in good position to make that glove save. He just fanned on it. Great pass by Zuccarello, though. I will say that. Always liked Zook. The second goal, again, Fleury probably would like back. It looked like he just lost track of the puck. Didn't know that it had hit off the boards and rebounded right to Zach Parise. That was a bad job by him. The third goal was the worst goal, though. That was just a bad job of rebound control. That's a save that he needs to make. This is a tough loss for the Golden Knights. They really should have won this game. They're still in the driver's seat, but they had the opportunity to win it in front of their home crowd, and they didn't. That's tough. Alright, now it's time to preview Maple Leafs Canadiens. Yes, they are playing tonight. It is a back-to-back. The NHL needs to make up as many games as possible with them because they started late. At this very moment that I'm saying this, we don't know who's going to start for the Leafs. We know who's going to start for the Habs. It's Carey Price. The Leafs need to start Jack Campbell. I know that you never want to start a goalie in both games of a back-to-back, but this is the playoffs. If the Habs are doing it, the Leafs need to do it. John Liu of TSN has already said that Carey Price is going to start. The Leafs need to start their guy, their best goalie all year, Jack Campbell. I've raved about Campbell in the past. For God's sake, I just called him Johnny Bauer and Turk Broad alike. What else do I need to say? He's Cujo? He's Eddie the Eagle? I mean, come on. Jack Campbell needs to start. If Frederik Andersen starts, the Leafs will lose. Andersen did not have a good year this year for the Leafs. Had a 2.96 goals against, an .895 save percentage. I don't know what Sheldon Keefe is waiting for. Announce Jack Campbell as the starter. Moving on now to Predators Hurricanes. If the Predators are going to continue their winning ways, realize they're the hot team in this series. They were down 2-0. Now the series is tied. They've got to step up their defense a little bit. They've got to play a little more disciplined hockey. You got to realize in Game 4, UC Saros faced 61 shots. In Game 3, he faced 56. I know that those games went into double overtime. I get that. But still, that's a lot of shots. And when you have a goalie in net that's good, not great, you've got to help him out a little bit more. The Predators were a defense-first team all year, very similar to the New York Islanders. They've got to go back to that. Help their goalie out. And don't expect him to make over 50 saves in this game. As for the Hurricanes, they need to generate more high-quality scoring chances. The one thing that the Predators are doing well is they're forcing the Hurricanes to take bad shots. A lot of those shots that Saros faced were from the outside. They were low percentage chances. They were easy-ish saves. Get the puck in deep, make some crisp passes, generate some good opportunities for yourself, and you'll see Saros blink more often than not. Look, the home team has won every game in this series. That bodes really well for the Hurricanes. This has been a series that has benefited the Hurricanes a lot more than the Predators. They haven't played well in high-scoring games all year. It's very impressive that the Predators have hung in here. Whoever wins this game will win the series, and I think that's going to be the Hurricanes. I don't remember who I picked in this series before it started, in answer to your next question. Alright, now I'll give you some NBA Valk talk. And I'm not going to spend too much time on the games that happened yesterday. They were blowouts. They were routs. They were never in doubt. The Miami Heat are playing like garbage in this series. Bam Adebayo has been dreadful. Jimmy Butler has been dreadful. Kendrick Nunn has been dreadful. When Goran Dragic is your best player, you're not going to win too many playoff games. When you have Dwayne Dedmon as the high man, you're not going to win too many games. Adebayo and Butler should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. This game was over in the first quarter. The Bucks were up 46-20. The Heat never led. They couldn't buy a three-pointer to save their lives. They didn't hit their free throws. Their rebounding was dreadful. It was a joke. I mean, I give the Bucks credit for seizing on it. All their guys stepped up. Giannis had a double-double. Jrue Holiday had a double-double. Chris Middleton had 17 points. And off the bench, Bryn Forbes had 22, Pat Connaughton had 15, and Bobby Portis had 11. If you're the Heat, a team that prides themselves on defense, you cannot allow those three guys that are coming off the bench to score 48 points. If it's Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday doing that, okay, you're doing something right. Forbes, Connaughton, and Portis, forget about it. That's inexcusable. I thought this series would be a lot more competitive. Now, after seeing the Heat blow game one, when they could have very easily won it, and getting run out of the building yesterday, it wouldn't surprise me if the Bucks swept the Heat. Moving on now to Trailblazers Nuggets. This game obviously wasn't as bad, but it's still tough, especially when you have Damian Lillard going off. The guy had 42 points. He had 32 of them in the first half. He made 8 threes in the first half. That tied the NBA playoff record for most threes made in a half. Yet despite that, the Trailblazers only had a lead as big as 3. I'm like 99% sure that lead was early in the first quarter. Yeah, it was. I just checked. I mean, the Blazers have not been a good defensive team this year. We talk about the Nets being all offense, no defense. That describes the Blazers, too. They put up 116.1 points per game this year. That's the 5th best mark in the league. But they've given up 114.3 points per game. That's the 8th worst mark in the league. So, way to squander a fantastic performance by Damian Lillard. You allow the Nuggets to shoot 54% from the field and 43% from beyond the arc. 6 Nuggets scored in the double figures. Nikola Jokic had 38 points. Michael Porter Jr. had 18. After his bad game in Game 1, that was nice to see. Facundo Campazzo had 12 points. You can't allow him to have 12 points. That's inexcusable. Aaron Gordon had 13. He did what he needed to do. Monte Morris had 12. And Paul Millsap, old Paul Millsap, had 15 points in 14 minutes. Also, I'll say this. Excluding Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and Norman Powell, the Blazers only had 31 points. Now, granted, that wouldn't mean anything if they won, because the Nets did something very similar. But when you lose, that stands out. Bad game for the Blazers, bad game for the Heat. Both those coaches probably didn't get much sleep last night. But now it's time to preview tonight's 3 games. I'll start with Celtics Nets. If the Celtics are going to win, they need to get Jason Tatum going more. The only reason that I picked the Nets in 5 rather than 4 is because I thought Jason Tatum would have a game where he just went off. He didn't do that on Saturday. He had just 22 points, shot just 6 for 20 from the field, 1 for 4 from beyond the arc. The Nets' defense was excellent in Game 1. The Celtics scored just 93 points. They shot just 37% from the field. Tatum needs to step up if the Celtics are going to win this game. It's just that simple. As for the Nets, they really don't need to change anything. If you want me to get specific, I'd like for them to get Robert Williams into foul trouble early. Because he was the best Celtic on the floor on Saturday night. He nearly had a triple-double with blocks. So try to get him into foul trouble early. I don't want to see another block party. If you don't, it's not going to matter too much. You'll still win. The Nets are winning this game. There's no way that they're going to lose a game to the Celtics in Brooklyn. Moving on now to Lakers-Suns. It's pretty obvious what the Lakers need to do if they're going to win. They need their dynamic duo to step up. LeBron and AD only combined for 31 points in Game 1. They shot a combined 11 for 29 from the field. That's not going to work. If those guys don't step up, the Lakers are dead in the water. I know that's obvious, but I can't make anything up. I'll say this, if the Lakers lose tonight, I don't see them pulling off the upset. I don't care that they're going back to the Staples Center. The Suns will win this series. As for the Suns, I'd like for Chris Paul to get more involved. I'm not knocking Paul. I know he got hurt in Game 1. That's okay. That's not his fault. but he's not on the injury report. Presumably, he's 100%. He's ready to go. I don't see the Suns winning another game where Paul just scores 7 points. I don't think that's going to work. I do think the Lakers are going to win. I don't see them falling behind 2-0. I think LeBron and AD are going to be super motivated. I think they're both going to have over 20 points. And the Lakers will win this game comfortably. Moving on now to Mavericks Clippers. If the Mavericks are going to win, Porzingis needs to step up. It was great that Tim Hardaway had 21 points. It was great that Dorian Finney-Smith had 18 points. It was great that Jalen Brunson off the bench had 15 points. It's easy to see where all the talent in that family went. But can you rely on those guys to go off again? I don't think so. Porzingis needs to step up. He's got to shoot better than 1 for 5 from beyond the arc. He's the unicorn. He's the Robin to Luka's Batman. He's got to play like it. It's just that simple. As for the Clippers, they've got to clamp down on D. They're a good defensive team. The Clippers this year only gave up 107.8 points per game. That's the 4th best mark in the league. But in Game 1, they allowed the Mavericks to shoot 50% from the field and 47% from beyond the arc. That's inexcusable. Kawhi needs to step up and play better defensively. Same thing with Paul George. Same thing with Patrick Beverley. Same thing with Nick Batum, Rajon Rondo, and Serge Ibaka. And you know what? I think they will. I don't see the Clippers losing 2 straight in the Staples Center. I think this series is going to go 7 games. For that to happen, the Clippers need to win tonight. So I'm going with LA. Alright, now I'll give you some NFL Valk talk. And Julio Jones certainly made some interesting comments on Undisputed. Shannon Sharp called him when Skip and Shannon were discussing if Julio Jones was going to try to force his way to the Cowboys because Jones was photographed wearing a Cowboys sweatshirt. To give the Cliff Notes version, Jones, who may not have known that he was on the air, said that he's out of Atlanta and he doesn't want to be a Cowboy. He wants to win. I mean, I don't blame him for wanting to win. The guy's racked up a bunch of individual accomplishments. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, has a lot of bold type. He's a future Hall of Famer. Now, this isn't the first time that we've heard Julio Jones' name mentioned in trade rumors, but it seemed like it was always in connection with Matt Ryan. If the Falcons were going to trade Matt Ryan and they were going to take a quarterback with the 4th overall pick, then trade Julio Jones. I never thought they were going to do that. I thought they were going to keep Ryan, they were going to keep Jones, they were going to use that 4th overall pick, and they were going to try to make a go of this thing. Obviously, that's what they did. They didn't trade Matt Ryan, and they took Kyle Pitts. But Julio Jones wants out. Now, I know that the Falcons are in cap hell. But you can't trade Julio Jones now. If you were going to trade Julio Jones, you need to blow the whole thing up. You're not doing anything without him. I don't care how great Kyle Pitts is going to be. I don't care about Calvin Ridley. I don't care about Russell Gage. Julio Jones is the future Hall of Famer. To trade Jones now, after doubling down on Matt Ryan, restructuring his contract, to move on from Jones now would be criminal. If you're gonna blow things up, blow things up. Now, I wouldn't have thought that was the right decision. The NFC South has certainly gotten weaker with Drew Brees' retirement. Sam Darnold is now in that division. Yes, the Buccaneers are the Buccaneers. Okay, I get that. But is it impossible to say that the Falcons could make some noise in that division? I don't think so. Without Julio, forget about it. That's not happening. But if you really thought in your heart of hearts that it was in the Falcons' best interest to get younger, okay, you hired a new GM, you hired a new head coach, new regimes mean new quarterbacks. You could have justified it. Justin Fields at 4 would have made a ton of sense in that case. But now for Julio to want out? I mean, that's tough. I don't know why Julio wants out. He said that he wants to win. I'm not necessarily convinced that he can't win with the Falcons. I mean, Ian Rappaport of NFL.com tweeted something very interesting. He said that Jones requested a trade a few months ago. Hey, the Super Bowl hangover affected a lot of people. Blowing that 28-3 lead was impossible for that team to come back from. It wore on Dan Quinn. Evidently it wore on Julio Jones. Again, I disagree with the notion that he can't win in Atlanta, but if he really wants out, let's think about what teams need wide receivers. Realize we're after the draft, so that does narrow the list. The Patriots would make sense. They could use a true number 1. But that doesn't help Julio win. The Patriots are better than the Falcons, but they're not winning a Super Bowl. Not with Cam Newton or Mac Jones as their quarterback. I saw some people throw out the Jets. No. No. First up, the Jets aren't anywhere close to winning. That's number 1. Number 2, you just signed Corey Davis. You have Denzel Mims. You just drafted Elijah Moore. Where are you putting him? Yes, you have the cap room to accommodate him, but there's no need for him. You don't need to give up a big asset for someone who's 32 years old if you're Joe Douglas. That's not going to work. The Jaguars would make sense, but they're not close to winning. Is it possible they could push the Titans for the AFC South? With Lawrence and Jones, possibly, but you're not going to make a lot of noise if you get into the playoffs. I don't see it. The Titans actually would make sense, realize. They lost Corey Davis and really didn't replace him. The thing is, though, the Titans don't have the cap room to trade for Julio. The Raiders could use Julio, but they don't have the cap room. The Eagles could definitely use Julio, but they don't have the cap room. The Lions would make sense. I don't know how the Falcons would feel about trading him within the division, but realize the Lions got extra draft capital from the Rams in the Stafford for Goff trade. They lost Marvin Jones and they lost Kenny Golladay. Yes, they signed Brashad Perryman. Yes, they signed Tyrell Williams. Yes, they signed Khalif Raymond. And yes, they drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown, but Julio Jones is better than all those guys. I don't know how the Falcons would feel about trading him within the NFC, but if I'm Brad Holmes, I'm making that call. I don't believe that the Lions are dead to the world. I don't think they're going to make a lot of noise in the NFC North, but I think they'll hang in there. I think they'll be competitive. They could get 6 wins. I like Jared Goff. Goff isn't as good as Stafford, but that gap isn't huge. The Packers would make a ton of sense. That would go a long way towards placating Aaron Rodgers, but they don't have the cap space for it. The 49ers would make some sense, but I think they want to roll with the young wide receivers that they have. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Hurd, Jawan Jennings, etc., etc. So the most likely team to me for Julio is the Lions. They can give up a first-round pick for him. I think he'd go a long way towards helping that team out. And look, with Julio, will the Lions win the NFC North? It depends on what happens with Aaron Rodgers. That's how you can justify it in your head if you're Julio. If Aaron Rodgers is going to be traded, then yeah, the Lions have a real chance of winning the NFC North. If Julio Jones goes to the Lions. If Rodgers stays, yeah, you're not winning that division. So there's no perfect fit for Julio, but the Lions are probably the best one. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, but the Falcons handled it horribly. If you're going to move on from Julio, you got to move on from Matt Ryan also. Complete the rebuild. Don't half-ass it. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, he won't be at OTAs, and he made some comments on SportsCenter with Kenny Mayne yesterday that were kind of interesting. He had the opportunity to put all this speculation to bed, and he didn't. Rodgers intimated that he feels disrespected. It's nothing against Jordan Love. He likes Love, but he feels disrespected by management. Look, I have a tough time visualizing the Packers trading Aaron Rodgers. If it's going to happen, it's going to be to the Broncos, maybe Washington, but I think they'd rather trade him out of the NFC. Look, there really isn't a lot of new information here. It seems like Rodgers has voiced his displeasure with the Packers. Has he gone as far as to request a trade and say, no, I'm not going to show up for anything? We haven't heard that, but he's not at OTAs. That is notable. He's usually at OTAs. He actually missed out on $500,000 by sitting out of OTAs. So that is kind of noteworthy. I wouldn't bet the rent on the Packers trading Rodgers, but it's certainly possible. And if it happens, holy God, it'll be one of the biggest trades in NFL history. Speaking of quarterbacks requesting trades, Deshaun Watson's trade request still stands. According to Tom Pelissero of NFL.com, Watson will not show up for OTAs. And it seems like the Texans are moving on from him. Realize they signed Tyrod Taylor, they drafted Davis Mills, they signed Jeff Driscoll. The Texans are gearing up for life without Deshaun Watson. The thing is, though, they're not going to find any takers. Deshaun Watson has been accused of sexual assault by 22 women. His deposition is set for February 22nd. That's after the Super Bowl. No team is going to trade for Watson now. Deshaun, what are you doing? Look, I'm okay with letting the legal process play out. I understand where there's smoke, there's fire, but still, you're innocent until proven guilty in this country. Let's let the legal process play out. For Deshaun Watson to still be doing this to the Texans is ridiculous. It's okay if he wants out of Houston. That's perfectly fine. But you've got to realize that no one's going to trade for you now. Suck it up. Play one more year for the Texans. Then next offseason, when there's some movement on the legal front, try it again. But no one's going to trade for you now. Okay? You've got to realize that. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that my manager told me to stay out of a double play. And I listened to him. I hit into a triple play instead.